The last ride. It was nearing midnight when Rachel pulled into the gas station, the only beacon of light on an otherwise desolate stretch of highway. She was tired, her eyes heavy from hours of driving, but she was determined to reach her parents' house by morning. The station was empty, save for a lone attendant behind the counter who barely looked up from his magazine as she filled her tank. As she swiped her card at the pump, the receipt printer stuttered and a message flashed on the screen. "See attendant inside." Annoyed, Rachel trudged toward the building, the crunch of gravel underfoot, the only sound in the still night. Inside, the fluorescent lights buzzed faintly. The attendant, a gaunt man with hollow eyes, glanced up and gave her an uneasy smile. "Pump 3?" he asked. "Yeah," Rachel said. The receipt didn't print. He handed her a crumpled slip of paper, but as she turned to leave, he spoke again, his voice low. "You shouldn't keep driving tonight." Rachel paused, confused. "What do you mean?" He hesitated, his eyes darting toward the shadowy highway beyond the glass doors. "Strange things happen out there after midnight. People see things, hear things." Rachel forced a laugh. "Thanks for the warning, but I'll be fine." The attendant didn't smile. "Just stay safe," he muttered. Shaking her head, Rachel returned to her car. She dismissed his warning as small-town superstition, the kind of thing bored people told themselves to pass the time. She had driven this highway dozens of times before without incident. Back on the road, the darkness seemed thicker than usual, the moon obscured by a heavy layer of clouds. The only illumination came from her headlights, which cut through the void in a narrow beam. As she drove, a prickling sensation crept over her skin, like she was being watched. She glanced in her rearview mirror and saw nothing but the empty road stretching behind her. The first sound came about 20 minutes later, a faint rhythmic tapping. She turned down the radio, straining to hear. The sound grew louder, like knuckles rapping against glass. She glanced at the windows. They were all up. Her pulse quickened. "Probably just a loose branch," she told herself. Then the tapping stopped, replaced by a low whisper. She couldn't make out the words, but it was unmistakable. Someone was whispering her name. "Rachel." Her heart pounded as she tightened her grip on the steering wheel. The sound seemed to come from everywhere at once, seeping through the car's vents and vibrating in her ears. "Who's there?" she shouted, her voice trembling. The whispers stopped. For a moment, there was only silence. Then, in the rearview mirror, she saw it. A figure sitting in the back seat. She slammed on the brakes, the car skidding to a halt in the middle of the empty highway. Her breath came in gasps as she whipped around, ready to confront whoever, or whatever, was in her car. But the back seat was empty. Rachel's hands shook as she fumbled with her phone, trying to call someone, anyone. But the screen wouldn't light up. The battery, fully charged when she left the gas station, was dead. The car engine sputtered and died. She was plunged into darkness. The whispers returned, louder now, surrounding her. They weren't just calling her name anymore. They were laughing. Terrified, Rachel stumbled out of the car, her legs shaking as she ran down the road. She didn't care where she was going. She just needed to get away. The laughter followed her, echoing in the empty night. Finally, she saw headlights in the distance, a pair of glowing eyes approaching rapidly. She waved her arms, screaming for help. The car slowed as it neared, and she felt a surge of relief as the driver rolled down the window. "Are you okay?" the man asked, his face hidden in shadow. "Please help me," she cried. "There's something out there." The man nodded solemnly. "Get in." Rachel hesitated for only a moment before climbing into the passenger seat. As the car pulled away, She glanced at the driver and froze. It was the gas station attendant, only now his hollow eyes glowed red.